Hello EFD squad and welcome back to Transfer Review, where we put City season underneath the microscope. Now the English window is slamming shut, but the European one rages on past this week, and people making some bold moves. Talking of bold.
Hey, very good, very good.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that one.
Right, first suggestion comes from Donny van der Beek. No, it doesn't come from Donny van der Beek, that's the player. It is Donny van der Beek to Real Madrid, and I've got the wrong show for suggestions because that's ERU, isn't it? Anyway, I'm just going to hand over to Dugan now. He's a safer pair of hands.
Yeah, basically, according to Marca, Real Madrid have now given up on their pursuit of Paul Pogba and are hopeful of securing Ajax's Donny van der Beek this week. This comes after reports emerged that Man United rejected an offer of €30 million plus James Rodriguez for the French midfielder, which very much seems like a sort of final throw of the dice deal, I'd suggest. But this was nowhere near Man United's asking price, which is understood to be around the €180 million mark. So it looks like Pogba will be staying in Manchester. But as for De Beek, Los Blancos have reportedly agreed terms with the Dutch midfielder, with the deal between the two clubs now the only thing to sort out. Real are ready to offer Ajax €50 million plus add-ons, meaning the overall fee could amount to around €60 million. But all this talk didn't stop the 22-year-old starring in his club's first Eredivisie game on the weekend, scoring a goal and assisting Dusan Tadic in a 2-2 draw with Vitesse. During the match, fans of the Amsterdam club made clear their desire for him to stay, chanting for his, hopefully for him to show a bit of loyalty to the club that sort of brought him up and stay at Ajax. And with De Jong already gone and Razvan Marin from Standard Liège, the club's only midfield signing, Van der Beek would be a tough figure to replace. Chris, how much have you seen of Donny van der Beek, and do you think he's Real Madrid quality? Because I sort of have my reservations at the moment, although I do think he looks like a promising player.
Yeah, well, we'll revisit his numbers over the past couple of campaigns because they have been consistently impressive, actually. At the weekend against Vitesse, yeah, pretty much running the show in terms of creativity. Quite an entertaining game, actually. So Bowser scored for Vitesse. He used to play for Ajax, I believe. And then he got sent off later on in the game. Van der Beek, lovely little sort of through ball to Dusan Tadic. I thought it was offside. I think he got a little bit of a deflection as well. But it was clear to see that he's going to be important to their title aspirations, given the personnel they've lost. 9 goals and 10 assists in the Eredivisie last campaign, as well as 3 goals and 2 assists in the UCL. Really solid, underrated output, amounting to a goal contribution every 143 minutes. Now that is very useful for a midfielder, but for comparison, that is better than Gareth Bale, who is Madrid's second top goal scorer, in La Liga, with a goal contribution every 163 minutes. So, is he just a one-season wonder? Was that a flash in the pan? No. In 17-18, at the age of 20, he got 11 goals and 6 assists in the Eredivisie as well. And its underlying numbers show someone who's got a really solid all-round game. Now, you're right to have your reservations because this is the sort of skill set that Davy Klaassen had. The ability to go forward, the ability to defend when was necessary, and that didn't really work out.
To say the least.
In a top league, did it? However, 1.5 key passes, 1.9 shots, 1.4 dribbles, 2.9 tackles and interceptions. If you're going to recruit someone based on the numbers, it's a pretty solid start. Like I said, his loss would clearly affect Ajax's title aspirations. I do think he is that important to the capital club. I mean, they only won the league by 3 points last term. We do forget that. We forget how good a season PSV had as well.
Yeah.
They were in a hot pursuit when they all campaign. And his output is attractive. If you're relying on Benzema yet again, which they're not because they bought Luka Jovic and they've got Eden Hazard. So maybe.
Although Benzema has started a lot of their pre-season games as well.
Yeah,
it seems like Jovic being sort of eased into it, which I find slightly bizarre.
So maybe they shouldn't gravitate towards someone whose main attribute is, goals and assists. They need someone at the base of midfield, don't they? They need a Luka Modric replacement. They need to be looking at a Toni Kroos replacement the next couple of years. They, of course, have Rodrigo as well. They have Vinicius Jr. So maybe recruiting someone to be at the sharp end of the stick, not necessary at this point for Real Madrid. Of course, spending a record amount this window. Zidane still wants Pogba, apparently, even if Van der Beek is secured. So he would come in very much as a squad player. Is that an appealing prospect for a player like Van der Beek, or do you put in another very good season in the Eredivisie and maybe move to a club one level below Real Madrid, but kind of rack up more minutes.
And
I
they've
think
got
that's
so many
probably
options in that sort of attacking midfield zone as well. James Rodriguez, Isco's obviously in need of a big season as well. So
didn't even mention those two.
I know.
Ridiculous.
Well, they slip under your mind sometimes. I mean, Real Madrid have just a plethora of options. So for me, Van der Beek would probably be better off staying in Ajax, but it's difficult to turn down the lure of Real Madrid. But what do you guys think? Real Madrid fans, we want to hear specifically from you. Do you think Donny van der Beek is Real Madrid quality? Let us know in the comments below. Let's move on to our next story.
Before we move on to our next transfer then, if you're not a member of the EFD squad, then what on bloody earth are you thinking? Click the subscriber button and the notification bell as displayed on screen. You don't want to miss, another transfer across Europe, and we will be covering them up until the 31st. And who knows, maybe we'll bring a transfer show onto Eurofootball Daily, a weekly one after that, because it's always popping off, isn't it? Next up is El Said Haissaj to Tottenham. What do we make of this Douglas?
Well, I feel like it's much needed. Pochettino's obviously had a bit of a difficulty at right back this summer. Obviously,
he's very close to kicking off.
Yeah, I think so.
He's very close.
Well, yeah, as he said earlier, he's not the one running it. He wants to be changed to a coach, not manager, etc. It seems like it's all sort of Pochettino sort of bubbling under the surface slightly. And you can see why. Kieran Trippier's left for Atletico Madrid. Juan Foyth got injured. Serge Aurier's carrying a knock from the AFCON. So Kyle Walker-Peters is their primary right back going into the new season. So they've been linked heavily with Napoli fullback El Said Haissaj, as Hamel said, and the Albania international is valued at between 30 and 40 million euros. But with a contract up in 2 years, he could leave Naples for as little as 20 million euros. But according to Football Italia, Spurs could face competition from Roma and Juventus, with Atletico Madrid having also considered him before signing Trippier. So
Juventus?
I know.
What is Sarri thinking? Out goes Cancelo, in comes Danilo and Haissaj.
I know, it does feel like a slight drop-off. I don't understand this, but then every time I talk about Jai Cancelo, everyone in the comments below says he is very weak defensively, so that will be put under full test in the Premier League.
Well, he won't have to do any defending.
Having said that, I was thinking, with 65% possession, I think he'll probably be okay. Anyway, moving on. Haissaj is already familiar with Maurizio Sarri, having been signed by him at Napoli after the pair worked together at Empoli. However, with the Cancelo-Danilo deal set to be completed, Juve may no longer need his services. Meanwhile, Spurs have another reported target, which is Marseille's Hiroki Sake, who is considered too old at 29, with Haissaj 4 years his junior at 25. So lots of names being banded around. But what would Haissaj sort of bring to the table, Hamel?
Well, his numbers are pretty solid, if unspectacular, mate. If you're looking for a Mr. Consistency who is built out of carbon fibre, then El Said Haissaj is your man. 35 plus league appearances in 4 of the last 5 campaigns, equating to 179 appearances. He's actually racked up more minutes than the ever-present Lorenzo Insigne in that time. However, it feels like Poch, who's always very demanding of his fullbacks, would require someone more well-rounded than Haissaj. I mean, his numbers pale in comparison to Trippier's, and we can't adjust his tackles and interceptions for possession. We don't have that information, but Ancelotti's men averaging 57%, the second highest in Serie A last campaign, around the same as Tottenham. So directly comparing their numbers, not doing him too much of a disservice at this point. So let's compare him to Trippier. So we're creating 0.6 chances a game last campaign, Haissaj. Trippier 1.8, 2.4 tackles and interceptions to Trippier's 3.4. And I mean, they were completing around the same amount of dribbles as well on 0.9, the same amount of passes with 57. Haissaj slightly edging Trippier with pass accuracy on 86%, but maybe his passes were generally safer. He was relying on Kalidou Koulibaly to do most of the progressive passing from defence. Of course, Faizi Goulam's probably been doing that as well for, if we're talking over the last 5 seasons. So he's not very inspiring, is he? But with 3 days left of the window at this point, maybe Pochettino is running out of options. He does offer versatility. We'll give him that. 8 appearances on the left as well last campaign. Spurs still in the market for Ryan Sessegnon, so they probably won't need more cover for that area. But solid competition for places with Kyle Walker-Peters and Serge Aurier, but nothing that really tickles my pickle.
Yeah, I think I will say that Haissaj, at least under Sarri, not necessarily under Ancelotti, but Sarri's system always has the left back really as the one that bombs on. Faizi Goulam, Haissaj maybe more defensively minded, and you saw that last year with Azpilicueta on the right and Marcos Alonso on the left. So maybe he's just not used to being pushed forward into attacking roles.
Yeah, he becomes that third centre half when the left back pushes up.
Maybe his stats are going to be difficult to compare. But I think Spurs definitely need to get another right back through the door. So if Hysaj is the only option with 3 days to go, then I think you go for it for 20 mil.
Yeah, a tricky one to compare. We tried our best. So let's move on to our final transfer before presenter picks.
So now we travel up to Merseyside, where Everton are in the midst of a very busy final few weeks of their transfer window, with Moise Kean obviously joined from Juventus for nearly £30 million, and Mainz midfielder Jean-Philippe Bamin arrived for £25 million. The Toffees have also had a £32 million offer for Abdoulaye Doucouré rejected by Watford. But an area which has generally been neglected this summer is defence. And Djibril Sidibe is reportedly set to join from Monaco. And Marco Silva looks like he's finally addressing an area that's been sort of left to sort of stew this summer, I'd say. They're very short in centre-backs, but right-back could be a good pickup, as we'll get onto in just a second. But according to L'Équipe and multiple other sources, the 18-capped France international is heading to Goodison Park on loan with an option to buy for €14 million. This would be the 27-year-old's first venture out of his home country, having come through the ranks at Troyes before spending 4 years at Lille before signing for Monaco in 2016. And while a lack of centre-back options is concerning, I think they've only got Yerry Mina and Michael Keane, Mason Holgate and Matt Pennington. And Mason Holgate might be going to Sheffield United, I saw as well. So they do need to address that. But right-back isn't a bad area to reinforce as well. Seamus Coleman is now turning 31 in October. What a fantastic career he's had, considering where he came from. I think it was somewhere, was it Derry City or something like that?
Let me know. That big injury as well, didn't
Exactly, yeah. Fantastic servant for Everton. And Cuco Martina, their backup, who spent last season on loan at Stoke, is turning 30 in September. What another pointless Ronald Koeman signing he's turned out to be. So a backup right back wouldn't possibly be the worst idea. And could Djibril Sidibe be a good option, Ham?
Well, the great thing about Seamus Coleman over the last 3 or 4 years has been his ability to get past his man. He's been a little powerhouse down that right-hand side, somewhat underrated. 2.5 dribbles he was completing the season before last. However, 18-19, that drops to 0.9, I believe. And you're wondering, is he losing some of that physical prowess, which made him such a weapon, in years gone by, and maybe his injury has taken its toll in that regard. Still creating around 0.8 chances per game, so he has found ways to remain creatively consistent, but it's not been about beating his man and getting to the byline. Sidibe, though, not much of a dribbler either. Still decent chance creation, 1.3 key passes last term. That's for a side which obviously finished 17th with only 38 goals scored. In fact, he ranked 5th in Monaco's squad for chances created, ahead of creative players like Golovin, like Tielemans, my boy, and Gelson Martins. Who, of course, I believe they have retained.
Yeah, they bought him for about 30, I think.
That is a lot of money for Gelson Martins. Well done, Atletico Madrid, turning over average players yet again. 18-19, I mean, it's a pretty poor season for Monaco as a whole, and Sidibe, his numbers definitely dropped. Still averaging around 3.5 tackles and interceptions, which does beat Coleman's 2.4. Again, the side's averaging around the same amount of possession, so not doing either of them a disservice by comparing there. But in years gone by, his goal contributions, Sidibe have been pretty impressive. So 2 goals and 7 assists in 17-18, with a total of 29 goal involvements in 144 league games for the Principality. Consistently creates over a chance, like we've already stated, and consistently actually takes a shot per game.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he's pretty adept at headers or what. Not adept at dribbling. I think he has a 29% completion rate, which is harrowing. Pretty awful. So I think he'd have no problems integrating into sort of Silva's preferred 4-2-3-1. He does offer them something different, but the emphasis should be on getting a centre-half in.
Couldn't agree more.
So come on, Silva, sort it out. Get yourself a centre-half, and I think you've had a pretty well-rounded transfer window, but without it,
bit short maybe.
No balance.
Presenter Picks is back, and we had only one topic we could cover. It's the big story from the last 12 hours. It's Christian Eriksen. Because AS, the Spanish publication, claimed that both Real Madrid and Man United retain even an interest in Spurs' Christian Eriksen, who would reportedly cost between 50 and 60 million euros due to only having 1 year left on his contract. I feel like this could be potentially one of the bargains of the summer at that price. Now, according to the Spanish paper, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, in one of his first meetings, having taken the full-time job in March, put down Eriksen on the table as a player he wanted to get in. Now, he's got a very strong relationship with Eriksen's coach at national level, Age Heredid, sorry, my Norwegian pronunciation not too good, who managed Solskjaer when he was at Molde and with the Norwegian national team. And supposedly they've been discussing how Eriksen would fit in and just basically sort of tapping him up via the coach, effectively. That's a big accusation. That's not true. I don't know whether there's any tapping up. But anyway, apparently Eriksen's preference is still Real Madrid, and the deal won't hinge on the arrival of Van de Beek, as Real Madrid realised that Van de Beek and Eriksen at that price is probably cheaper than Pogba will cost anyway. But yet the Metro and the Daily Mail claim that United have offered him a 5-year deal, with Spurs now looking to bring in previous United target Bruno Fernandes as his replacement. So it looks like a two-way fight, and if I was Spurs, I'd much rather sell him to Real Madrid. But either way, I think whichever club is getting a fantastic player, Hamill.
Pochettino, if Eriksen leaves before this window slams shut, will just...
Without Lo Celso or Bruno Fernandes coming in as well, they have to get someone through the door.
He will go through the bloody roof. I mean, what can we say about Christian Eriksen that's not already been said? Obviously, one of our favourite players here at Football Daily, Euro Football Daily. He's been so well-rounded. His output's been incredible. Probably, somewhat underrated. I mean, 60 assists since 2013-14, average of 10 per season, which is more than David Silva. It's more than Mesut Ozil, 49 goals to boot. 0.44 expected goals and assists per game. So a goal contribution every other game for a central midfielder. Of course, does take corners, does take free kicks. We do have to temper it with that. But he's just been a phenom since he's been at Tottenham. And his fitness is somewhat underrated as well. I think he's only missed 9 league games in the previous 5 seasons. So maybe there's a little something you didn't know about Christian Eriksen. Insane consistency and fitness as well. He did it in the Champions League as well for them last term, didn't he? 2 goals, 4 assists. So no sort of worries about translating that form from League to Champions League, because of course that's imperative at Real Madrid, isn't it? I would like to see him go. Oh, I've not really thought about this too. I think that's a big move for Manchester United.
I think it's really exciting for Man United.
That would be huge, of course. Ander Herrera's gone, Fellaini's gone. They're extremely light in central midfield. He is not a player that's going to come in and plug those defensive numbers left by those two. But there is other players who can do that in the squad. You're hoping to get another year out of Nemanja Matic, particularly as he costs £40 million, which we often forget about. And him and Paul Pogba as a central midfielder partnership is about as creative and about as forward-thinking as you can possibly get. It'd be devastating with the right balance behind them.
I really agree. I think a Pogba, Eriksen, even Matic holding the fort there in central midfield, that's suddenly a really exciting midfield behind a front three of maybe Rashford, Martial, Greenwood or Lingard. I suddenly think it changes the whole complexion of United's squad. I know they still need a defensive midfielder and they should prioritise that over Eriksen still. But if you can get him through the door for 50, 60 million, this is an absolute steal.
It feels like a signing that United would have made 10 years ago. When they were signing, picking off people's best players, well, Tottenham in particular, the Berbatovs and the Sheringhams, Carricks. So it does feel like a Manchester United piece of business from yesteryear. But what do you guys think? Would you welcome him through the door at United, or do you want the focus to be on a defensive midfielder? And who would you go for? Let us know in the comments below. That's, of course, it for this week's transfer review. It'll be raging on until the end of the month, won't it? When the transfer window shuts on the 31st. Any sort of moves that you can see happening before the window shuts in the Premier League? Of course, we're doing Fan Hour, so let's plug that. Fan Hour Thursday on Football Daily.
Live. When I was doing a bit of research for this Eriksen section, Bruno Fernandes does seem like he's now Spurs' primary target if they do lose Eriksen. I think Betis have apparently become very frustrated with Spurs' attempts to lowball them for Giovanni Lo Celso and have finally lost patience, which I don't blame them for, to be honest. That deal's been rumbling on for months. So I could see Bruno Fernandes potentially going to Spurs.
Bruno Fernandes would mean that Christian Eriksen leaves.
Yeah.
Surely.
Definitely.
Can't be playing Bruno Fernandes, Christian Eriksen and Dele Alli in one side, can you? That'd be tasty.
It'd be crazy.
Oh, anyway, that's it. Like I said, like, subscribe, drop us a comment, hit us up on Twitter. Continental Club questions, Sunday Vibe questions, they will be needed. Hot takes as well. one next week, not the hot takes this week. So look out for that sort of stuff on our Twitter timelines and get in touch. Bye.
Cheers.